After becoming the first Browns quarterback since 1995 to win his NFL debut, Shedeur Sanders sat down at that podium and dropped a line that made his haters absolutely lose their minds. A lot of people wanted to see me fail, and it ain't gonna happen. But here's what nobody's talking about. This wasn't just some cocky rookie talking trash. This was a fifth-round pick who spent 6 months at the bottom of the depth chart watching 40-year-old Joe Flacco and third-rounder Dillon Gabriel get their shots while he led something called Hungry Dogs practice sessions with undrafted free agents. And when he finally got his chance, he didn't just win. He made history. But the ways he responded to all the doubters, all the people who questioned his character, his work ethic, his so-called arrogance, man, you need to hear this entire press conference because Shedeur just flipped the script on everybody.
I'm not gonna lie, I felt very relaxed. And half of that comes from preparing, studying, and knowing I got God on my side. So throughout all that, I had no worries. I didn't feel nervous or anything before the game because, he took all my worries and everything away.
So let's set the scene real quick. November 23rd, 2025, Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. The Cleveland Browns are 2-8, sitting at the bottom of the AFC North, and everyone's already looking ahead to next year's draft. Their defense, absolutely elite. Myles Garrett and that front seven are terrorizing quarterbacks every week. But their offense, man, it's been a revolving door of disappointment. Deshaun Watson's injured, Joe Flacco got traded to the Bengals, Dillon Gabriel's in concussion protocol, and now they're rolling out a fifth-round rookie who couldn't even get first-team reps during training camp. The media narrative? Shedeur's not ready. He's overrated. He's all hype because of his dad. He's too cocky. He fell to the fifth round for a reason. And look, I get it. When you're Deion Sanders' son, when you had cameras following you since high school, when you're flashing watches and talking like you belong before you've proven anything at the NFL level, people are gonna hate. That's just how it is. But here's where the story gets interesting, and this is what the mainstream media won't tell you. While everyone was busy criticizing Shedeur for not being humble enough, for having too much confidence, for supposedly being a diva, this dude was putting in work that nobody saw.
Did that make you feel any kind of way? I mean, I know you came in with confidence, but could you take us through that play, just how it made you feel making that play?
I would say the thing is I visualized everything during the week. The game was already played. So that's why I have confidence. That's why I'm able to talk how I talk, walk how I walk, do what I'm able to do because the game was already mentally played already before we was out there. Then when you get out there, you confirm,
And now we get to week 11. Dillon Gabriel takes a hit against the Ravens and has to leave with a concussion. Shedeur gets thrown into the fire with zero warning. No first-team reps all season, and he goes 4 for 16 passing. It looked rough. Real rough. And you know what the haters did? They came out in full force. See? We told you. He's not an NFL quarterback. Deion's kid is a bust. Social media was brutal, man. But here's what those people didn't understand. And this is where we get into the real story. Getting thrown into a game cold against the Ravens defense, one of the best in the league, with no preparation, no timing with your receivers, no feel for the speed of the NFL game, that's basically setting somebody up to fail. But Shedeur didn't complain. He didn't make excuses. He went back to work. Fast forward 1 week. Kevin Stefanski tells him he's getting the start against the Raiders. And this time, he gets a full week of practice with the first team, a full week to build timing with the receivers, a full week to study the defense, to work with the offensive line, to actually prepare like a starting quarterback. And what happened? Shedeur went out and completed 11 of 20 passes for 209 yards, threw his first career touchdown, a beautiful 66-yard screen pass to Dylan Sampson, and led the Browns to a 24-10 victory. But more than the stats, it was how he did it. There was a play in the first half where he hit Isaiah Bond for 52 yards downfield, threading the ball into a tight window with perfect touch. There was the way he stood in the pocket, calm and collected, even with the Raiders' pass rush coming at him. And there was that smile that famous Shedeur smile, when he was making plays like he knew something everybody else didn't. But here's the real kicker. This win made Shedeur the first Browns quarterback to win his first career start since 1999. Let me say that again. Since the Browns came back to the NFL in 1999, they had 42 different quarterbacks start for them. 42. And every single quarterback making their first career start for Cleveland had lost. That's a 0-17 record, a 26-year curse. Tim Kutch, Brady Quinn, Brandon Weeden, Johnny Manziel, Deshaun Keyser, Baker Mayfield, all of them lost their first starts. Every single one. And Shedeur Sanders, the fifth-round pick that everyone said wasn't ready, the kid who supposedly had everything handed to him because of his last name, the player who fell in the draft because scouts questioned his character and leadership, he's the one who broke the curse. Not the first-round picks, not the veterans, him.
That's how life is. You know, everybody's not in the best situation, you know, but it's no excuse. You got to go out there and perform. Like, there's no choice, there's no question. Nobody cares if this was 1 week of prep. Who cares? You know, so a lot of people want to see me fail, and it ain't going to happen. You know, it ain't going to happen.
It was an unfamiliar position for you to be in for the last 6-7 months, like you said.
Yeah.
So now we get to the press conference, and this is where it gets emotional. Because what you're about to hear isn't some arrogant dude talking trash. This is a young man who's been doubted his entire life, who's been told he's not good enough, who's had to watch from the sidelines for 6 months while everyone questioned whether he belonged, finally getting his moment and refusing to let anyone take it from him. The reporter asks him how he felt coming into the pro level, and Shedeur says, "I'm not going to lie, I felt very relaxed. Very relaxed. And half of that comes from preparing, studying, and knowing I got God on my side. So throughout all that, I had no worries. I didn't feel nervous or anything before the game because he took all my worries and everything away." Now, some people are going to hear that and roll their eyes. Here he goes talking about God again. But listen to what he's really saying. This is a dude who spent the last 6 months in one of the most stressful situations imaginable. You're a high-profile rookie who didn't get drafted where you thought you would. You're in a new city with a struggling team. You're not getting the opportunities you expected. The media's questioning everything about you. Fans are divided on whether you should even be on the roster. And through all of that, his response was faith and preparation. He goes on to talk about his journey, and this is where you see the real Shedeur. He says, everybody starts at different places, and just because I didn't get the summer reps, just because I wasn't in the best situation for me to be prepared to go out there and execute from a summer standpoint, that's how life is. Everybody's not in the best situation, but it's no excuse. You gotta go out there and perform. There's no choice. There's no question. Nobody cares if this was 1 week of prep. Who cares? And then he drops the line that's been running through every NFL highlight reel. A lot of people wanted to see me fail, and it ain't gonna happen. It ain't gonna happen. Man, when he said that, you could feel it. That wasn't cockiness. That was conviction. That was a young man who's been counted out, overlooked, and disrespected, finally standing up and saying, I belong here. But what really separates Shedeur, and this is what his critics refuse to acknowledge, is his self-awareness and humility in the moments that matter. He talked about his upbringing, about how his dad Dion moved them from a mansion to the inner city to charter schools because he wanted them to understand different perspectives and develop that competitive edge. He said, when we grew up, my dad had us in a 30,000 square foot home. Then after that, he took us to go play ball in the inner city. Then we transferred and he moved us across town because he wanted us to get that dog in us, to have that mentality, to have that it factor.
When you watch it from the sideline, like, everybody could analyze, everybody could say everything from the sideline. You could watch TV, everything. You could talk on TV, whatever you want to do. But until you get out there and you do it, then it's different. Going out there, with, only practice with the Hungry Dogs and everything, like, that's different. It's a lot of vet quarterbacks, that had their time and everything that were backups and was able to get thrown in the game and be all right. but I don't think they was like that in their rookie year. That's a difference, you know? Like
That's not privilege talking. That's intentional character development. Deion could have kept his kids in the bubble, let them grow up soft and sheltered. Instead, he exposed them to different environments, different struggles, different perspectives, so they could relate to everybody. And you see that in how Shedeur carries himself. Yeah, he's confident. Yeah, he talks his talk. But he also stays after practice with the undrafted guys. He shouts out the practice squad players by name in his press conference. He gives credit to the offensive linemen, the coaches, his teammates. That's not what divas do. And then he said something that hit me different. He talked about being a backup and having to, quote, compromise your personality and change the way you do things to never step on anybody's toes. Think about what that means. For 6 months, Shedeur had to hide who he really was. He couldn't be himself in the locker room because he didn't want to disrespect the starters. He couldn't lead the way he wanted to because it wasn't his team yet. But the moment he got his opportunity, he showed everybody exactly who he is. A leader, a competitor, a winner. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room. There's been this narrative floating around, especially on social media, that Kevin Stefanski was sabotaging Shedeur, that the Browns head coach intentionally kept him on the bench because of some personal grudge or because he wanted Dillon Gabriel to be the guy since he was drafted higher. When a reporter brought this up to Shedeur, asking him about supporters who think Stefanski was working against him, you know what Shedeur said? "So you just want to start trouble, huh?" He completely deflected. He didn't take the bait. He didn't throw his coach under the bus. He didn't feed into the drama. Instead, he praised the organization for giving him an opportunity and focused on what he could control, his preparation and performance. That's maturity right there.
I was a 5th-round pick. I got skipped by everybody at least 5 times. so it's not. It just come with the game. You know, it is what it is. But I'm just thankful for where I am now. You know, I don't. Everybody have their differences. But I still got an opportunity to play. So why could I be mad? You know, money different, but thankfully I have a good family. You know, so it is what it is. We're not playing for that. We're playing for the love of the game. So I'm just thankful to be out here, have an opportunity, be able to go. And,
See, this is what separates the real ones from the pretenders. Shedeur doesn't get defensive about the hate. He doesn't waste energy arguing with critics. He just goes out and proves them wrong, then shows gratitude to the people who believed in him. That's championship mentality. The wildest part of this whole story, the very next day after Shedeur's win, the Raiders fired their offensive coordinator, Chip Kelly, the same Chip Kelly who's never found success in the NFL, the same Chip Kelly who was one of the highest paid coordinators in the league, the same Chip Kelly who probably had a say in the Raiders' drafting strategy. And you know what a lot of people are thinking? What if the Raiders had drafted Shedeur instead of passing on him? What if teams actually evaluated him on his talent and work ethic instead of whatever character concerns they invented in draft meetings? Because let's be real, the character concerns never made sense. This is a kid who's never been in legal trouble, never had off-field issues, graduated from college, is a devout Christian, works his tail off, and treats people with respect. But because he's confident and because his dad is famous, suddenly he's got character concerns? That's code for we're uncomfortable with his confidence and we're looking for reasons not to draft him high. So here's my question for you watching this. How many times have you doubted someone because of their confidence? How many times have you rooted against someone simply because they believed in themselves before the world did? How many Shedeur Sanders stories have you been on the wrong side of? Because I'm telling you right now, we're watching something special develop in Cleveland. Whether Shedeur becomes the franchise quarterback or not, whether he starts next week or sits, whether he has a Hall of Fame career or just a solid NFL run, none of that changes what he proved on November 23rd, 2025. He proved he belongs.
First off, I want to see all my haters get on their knees and apologize to me and kiss my feet while calling me King Sanders. I'm going to put all my haters through a humiliation ritual for doubting me. Don't ever call me the Bronny of the NFL again, bro. I earned my way here while that bum Nepo kid got there because of his daddy LaDiddy. I'm not going to lie, I got carried by my running backs and my defense, but I'm going to pretend like I did everything because my stats look incredible. When was the last time that trash can Dylan Gabriel threw for over 200 yards? Please don't put me in the same category as that dude. Now I want to hear a reporter glaze me, please.